I really thought about doing a James Bond impression, but I realized I can't do it. Anyway, Daniel Craig is back once again in the latest James Bond movie, Spectre. This time around, Daniel Craig is on a rogue mission in Mexico City and eventually finds this strange symbol that eventually becomes the organization known as Spectre. This movie is once again directed by Sam Mendes, who, if you don't remember, actually directed the previous James Bond movie, Skyfall, which in all honesty is actually my favorite James Bond movie. It delivered an action, provided incredible entertaining thrills, had a fantastic villain played by Javier Bardem, and it also hints a little bit at the backstory of James Bond, which I found to be very interesting. So it's no clear shock that I was definitely looking forward to this next Bond entry, despite the fact that it had some rather mixed reviews. While I wasn't overwhelmingly amazed by Spectre, I still had a fun time watching this movie. The action scenes were marvelously shot and well directed. All the performances from the main cast were top notch, and there were even bits of well played humor, mostly played out by Daniel Craig. Speaking of Daniel Craig, can I just say that Daniel Craig is honestly my favorite Bond that we've ever had? Not only does he still carry that suave, charismatic charm that has been seen in other previous James Bond entries, but his brought a lot more grit and dark realism to this whole new world of James Bond. And it's by completely changing this tone from typical James Bond movies into something more dark and gritty is what makes this character in a way more relatable, definitely realistic, and someone that you actually tend to care about. And he's not just a man that's all suave and handsome and has sex with lots of women. He's a real person, and they explore that not only in previous Daniel Craig entries, but this one as well. Like I mentioned before, this movie honestly has a lot of really good humor, particularly coming from Daniel Craig. There's even one part of the movie which I am going to spoil. It's a scene where he beats up these two guys, and then one of them, as he's about to attack him, he just tells him, "Stay." And he does, and I just thought that was so hilarious. I just had to bring that up. I thought that was like one of my favorite moments from the movie. And also, like I said before, the performances from the main cast are really good. For example, Christoph Waltz as the main villain. When he's on screen, he delivers an amazing performance. He comes off as a very chilling and yet horrifying villain for a villain like this. It's a very old school Bond type of movie, but injected with steroids, and I thought he did an amazing job. Another example is Leah Seydoux, I believe is how you pronounce her name. She is very good as this new Bond girl, and she serves a vital part to the story, and I really dug her character a lot. And Dave Bautista really surprised me as this really big, humongous badass. He literally only has one line in the entire movie. He's pretty much a silent henchman type figure, if you want to call him that, but when he kicks ass, he kicks ass. There's an amazing train fight in the movie with him and Daniel Craig. I loved it. I loved every second of it. He's awesome. However, Spectre is not a great Bond movie in comparison to other Daniel Craig works like Casino Royale or even Skyfall for that matter. And what keeps it from being a great Bond movie is the fact that the story has some issues. It's not a cohesively well-told story and involves like some minor side plot, which I've heard is actually a ripoff from Mission Impossible 5. Now granted, I haven't seen Mission Impossible 5, so that really sucks. However, that being said, the subplot was still boring and disinteresting. There also seemed to be some pacing issues, particularly with the second half more so than the first half of the movie. And while I said that Christoph Waltz was tremendous as the villain of this movie, he was completely underused. He's barely in the movie at all, honestly, and it's really sad because the best villains in movies are the ones that you learn to understand why they do what they do. In this movie, you really don't learn necessarily so much about this character, which kind of sucks. Oh and yeah, everyone on the internet was making a big deal that Monica Bellucci was in this movie. If you thought Christoph Waltz wasn't in the movie this much, she's only in 2 scenes in the movie. She didn't really even need to be considered like a major character in this movie. She really didn't serve any purpose. And finally, right when you think the movie is just about to end, it keeps going for another 10, maybe 20 minutes or so, and it just felt like it just got tacked on at the last minute. However, as a Bond movie, I still had a really good time watching Spectre. Like I said before, there are great things to take away from this movie. The action, the thrills, Daniel Craig being James Bond. It's always amazing to watch him play James Bond. There's quite a bit of humor in there. The main cast does a very good job delivering excellent performances, but it is bogged down by little minor things, particularly within the story. In the end, it's still a good watch, and I'm going to give Spectre a 7.5 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, tell your friends, and I'll see you next time.